Here's the thing. The reason why you probably have a very different perception of this than we do. We're kind of having the reason why we're kind of stalling is because we're having a hard time picking out exactly what to work on. And it's because the fundamentals of your actual motion are actually really, really strong, are actually really good. The biggest difference between you and Kevin is in rhythm.
Okay.
Kevin's rhythm takes him through all those positions in a longer period of time.
Please.
And so Kevin has a build of momentum and energy that takes him to about here. He doesn't have a pause or a stop in his motion, but there's two distinct kind of phases to his motion, kind of a loading or preparation phase, and then an unwinding acceleration phase that's much more aggressive and much more explosive. And so there's kind of a smooth, slow setup, and then everything starts to accelerate forwards. Your rhythm is much faster and more continuous. And so once your hands separate and you start going through your motion, everything kind of goes at the same speed and the same rate. This is the biggest fundamental difference between you and Kevin. All the mechanical, like technical positions are basically fundamentally the same. This is the serve we were using to look at a second ago.
Okay.
Now, if your toss is just a little bit higher or a little bit lower, or your initial kind of start of your momentum in your motion is a little bit faster, a little bit slower, then things misalign very quickly, and it's like kind of a domino effect where once the rhythm is a little bit off between the racket's motion and the ball's path in the air, like things start to feel unconfident and herky-jerky really, really quickly. I think there's two things. There's the volatility of the rhythm, which when things get thrown up just a little bit, it's like it kind of blows everything up because there's no real wiggle room. There's no like margin for error with that continuous and quick of a motion. I think there's that part of it, and then the other part is you're not giving yourself much margin with the actual shot that you're hitting. Your shots are very direct and very straight, very flat is the word most people would use to describe it. Is this the one we just looked at? Yeah. So this is the serve we just looked at. And what I want you to look at is how the racket is lining up under the ball. It's directly, whoops, it's directly underneath the ball. And as you come up to make contact, your release is also very much in line with that same plane. And so if the racket lines up right underneath the ball, comes up to meet the ball at contact, and then goes through in the same direction, everything is lined up and straight through, very much like an old school forehand, where everything is all lined up and going right through the ball, right towards the target. And so there's no curve, there's no shape to the shot, which makes it a very low percentage. And I asked Kevin to hit a couple of flat serves and a couple of topspin serves, and that one that I compared yours to was the flat serve. And so you see his racket lining up under the ball, making contact, and then going through the point of contact. So if we draw that same line here, you see that he releases through that same plane. Does that make sense? Now, that's as compared to more of a topspin delivery, which is this, where now you see that here's where he's making contact. Oops. And so his racket is coming up from the left side of the ball. You see the racket face? And going across to the right side of the ball. And so his swing is in effect going this way, even though his target is over here. And so that separation of racket path and target creates rotation.
Okay.
And you're very much going right through. And so we've got like all of this motion and movement that's, once you initiate it, goes all the way through, all at the same speed. And you're trying to meet the ball at basically right at the very peak of your toss. Occasionally you're actually hitting the ball while it's still rising, which is pretty rare. So you've got a very quick motion and you're going right through the ball. And so if any of those things is like a little bit, if like your timing is a fraction off or the angle of your racket is a fraction off, then you just miss the serve. Okay. And so you're making it very difficult on yourself to be consistent. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yep. And so I think your confidence is very low because your reliability is also very low. Okay. So I think the biggest thing to work on is learning how to shape the shot so we can gain a bunch of margin and then hopefully gain confidence and get a little more repeatability in your rhythm and your timing. Okay. So come on up to the baseline. We're going to work through a couple of feel drills. And so I want you to just kind of picture in your mind that line that I drew on Kevin's serve from contact down. And what we're going to teach you how to do is go up past the ball and out to the right instead of releasing through the ball towards your target. So to begin with, I'd love for you to hold the ball in your left hand and sandwich it with your strings. Let's start off with just a couple of rolls up and down. Okay. And the whole point here is to get a feel for what it's like to make contact with the racket a little more horizontal and not so vertical. Okay. As long as you're making contact from a fully extended position, you're always going to be more inclined to release forward through the point of contact towards your target. A true kick serve is actually made with the racket quite a bit lower, so that contact can be made with the racket still accelerating upwards. Okay. That's the only way to make topspin. Okay. It's impossible to make topspin if you've already extended your arm and your shoulder all the way. Yeah, makes sense. Because there's nowhere else up to go from that spot. So let's see a couple of rolls up and down. Your hand, please. Mm-hmm. And then go ahead and roll up off the tip of your fingers. And then I'd love to see you go straight up and make an arc with the ball. Good, good. Okay, you can put that ball in your pocket. And now from here, we're going to practice tracing an arced path or kind of a rainbow path with the tip of the racket. So I'd love to see you kind of pretend you're going up off the tips of your fingers, then go out along the baseline and turn your hand to face back towards the other coaches. Yep. Let's do a couple more of those, real slow and relaxed. Good job. This next one, I'm going to guide you a little bit. Okay. As you go up, I'd love to see you make this turn a little bit sooner. Okay. Exactly. Yep, yep, yep. So this is a kick out wide. This is the result. And here's the technique. So here's contact right here. Mm-hmm. This is the peak of the racket's kind of reach upwards. Yep. And so contact is made before that full pointing upwards position or extension upwards while it's on the way up. And then from there, his hand turns out to the side. And so this is that position I was talking to you about. So what we're trying to achieve here is a upward vertical release of the racket and then out to the right along the baseline. Okay. And the result is basically kind of a rainbow kind of arced path with the hand and with the racket. All right, go ahead, grab that ball in your pocket. And now I'd love to see you roll the ball up the tip of your the tips of your fingers and then slowly trace that arced path up and out to the right. Yes, good, great, nice job. And then from here, Scott, once you've rolled and you've come out to the right, the racket should continue on that plane and go along the baseline over to your left side. Yep. Nice job. All right, good job. One more feel kind of progression here. I'd love to see you move through your motion slowly and really calm and relaxed. And now integrate this framework into your motion. So what we should see is your racket coming up a little bit to the left of where contact would be, which is going to be just over your shoulder, maybe a little bit to the left of there. So racket should come up a little bit to the left of that spot, past that position over your shoulder, on its way out to the right, and then across to your left. So really take your time, and if you want to kind of pause and kind of take inventory, that's fine. Don't worry about going through all at the same time. Yes, 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 that's great, that's great, that's great. That's great, that's great. All right, check this out. So here's one of the last reps that you just did. Here's Raonic hitting that same serve. So really what we're most concerned with is that arced kind of rainbow path from moving from just to the left of contact, up, through contact, and then over to the right. And so here's you. Oops, cut off a little bit there. Let me go to the one before. And so this would be your imaginary contact point right about here. And so I'll just leave a little circle there. And so this is what we want. One technical, I don't want you to overthink on technique too much, but one technical thing that is really important, big difference between you and Milos here, is where remember earlier I mentioned, if you turn sideways a little more, this will be a little more comfortable on the shoulder. Look at Raonic here, how his chest at this point is sideways, and it really basically stays there. He's turning a little bit, but he stays pretty sideways through contact until after he comes down from that arced path, and you're facing your chest pretty forward. And so this is just kind of a little bit of a stressful position to put the shoulder in. So it's just something I want you to be aware of. It would be better here if you were turned a little more sideways.
I agree with that.
Okay, so what I'd love to see you do is, sorry I can't show you this righty, but just start from that dropped position that you've practiced a bunch from, and you're going to toss, and your goal is to come up and out to the right, just starting from that abbreviated kind of dropped position, and do your best to come up and out along the baseline. And so we're looking for a very, very vertical and arced kind of path with the racket. And when done correctly, did you hear the sound that made? The last time I heard that sound today was earlier when you were practicing this. And it's the same principle of releasing the racket head past the ball upwards. It's exactly what you were doing on your forehand with Megan earlier. Kevin, sorry. Now, makes zero difference where the ball goes. Would really love to see you execute just the swing path. And so what you're going to do is start from here, trace that left to right motion 2 times, then toss. Yeah, that's the best I can do. Then toss and try to execute that same path. Does that make sense? Two shadows first. You're coming up from the left of contact and finishing to the right of contact. Yep, coming up along the baseline. Good, good. Just didn't find the strings. Excellent, excellent. Okay, now let's give this a shot within the context of your full motion. So real slow, relaxed. Our goal is to bring the racket up towards contact, a little bit to the left of contact, and then release out to the right. Definitely a couple practice ones first. All the way through your motion. And bringing the racket up to the left of your shoulder. And by your shoulder, I mean, if we kind of drew a line straight up from your right shoulder, that's right around where we want to make contact. And so your racket should come up a little bit to the left of that. Yep, and then extend out to the right, exactly. Great job. Good job, good job, good job. And it's fine. Now we just got to get the strings back over to the left. Keep the path the way you just did it, out to the right. Up and to the right. Huh? Yep, yep, on the right track. Teetering on the edge now. Go ahead, grab a drink. Just rest your brain for a second. So here's the full motion. This is one of your better executions. And here I'll pause at contact again, just to give us an anchor point. So there's contact. So racket to the left, contact, out to the right. It's good. See a little bit of that curl on the wrist again. Yeah. But the overall path, this is absolutely what we want. Yeah. I'm not kind of torn on how comfortable do you feel with it? There's part of me that wants to maybe have you start with the abbreviated, just kind of feel it. Another part of me that is curious what would happen if I just had you slowly go through the full motion and try to execute it.
Let's try the full motion.
Okay. All right, let's do it. Do at least a couple of shadow swings first. Okay. Yes, 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 yes. Did you hear that sound?
Yeah, you're smiling.
Yes. That's exactly what we want. When I smile, you know it was good.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. It's really nice, really nice. Yep, yep, yep. Good swing path. Are you seeing the ball, how it's reacting off the bounce?
Yeah.
It's kind of coming in a little bit to the left and then coming out to the right again a little bit. You know what that is?
Well, it's spin.
But it's called kick. That's it's a kick serve.
Okay.
Now, if we take what you're doing now and we accelerate it like 2 or 3x, we'll start seeing a big upward and downward curve and then a big bounce out to the right. For right now, you should be staying exactly where you are as far as effort. But as you become more comfortable with this is basically the big picture goal, is to accelerate it, and then you'll get big margin over the top of the net, easily landing inside the service box, and the resulting bounce is a really difficult shot to return. Okay. So it's like the best of both worlds. You have very high margin, high degree of confidence, and it's challenging for the returner as well. This should be it. Really nice, Scott, really nice. That's it. Yeah, nice, 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 nice. Yeah. Good, Scott. Here, let me show you this real quick. This was a couple of reps ago on one that you did really nicely on. Uh-huh. Remember the lines we drew before?
Right.
Here's contact. Here's your racket lining up to the left of contact. Up and out to the right. So huge space now to the right of contact.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is exactly what's giving us the shape and the bounce.
Okay, good.
Let's draw those same lines. So here's contact line. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not really at all. I mean, maybe we could. Here, I'll be generous. There you go. There you go.
Okay, we'll do that.
A little bit left, and there's how rightwards it made it. So this is why you had consistency problems, and misses would come in like bunches because everything is like all lined up with the target, and so a tiny bit of difference in racket angle or swing direction or timing in your motion would mean just very different results. So for me, like, this is a perfect like visual illustration of the huge, you're making a huge swing path difference, which is what's giving us the spin.